what this conversation is going to be about. When you get a calling, when you get tapped in your heart and your soul, it says, here's a thing for you to do in this world. How do you move that into a business that's functional, that makes money, that supports your mission and allows you to focus more and more on your purpose, not so much on trying to make something happen in the nuts and bolts of your business? That's what we're talking about today. I started out doing this for about 15 years now, but I started out at Microsoft. I was in training and development at Microsoft, and I had what happens for a lot of people, which is I got called in a new direction. It was a great job. I enjoyed it. And then I went on this date with a guy named James Shank. And James was a restaurateur in San Francisco. And on this date, he talked to me about using a coach to start his business. And how the coach asked him, how are people going to feel in this restaurant? What kind of conversations are they going to have when they're here? If they leave and talk about their experience the next day, what might they say? Really building the soul of the business first. And then saying, great, and if that's the case, where does the restaurant need to be in terms of location? What's the price point need to be? What about decor, cuisine, etc.? And I left that date, and everybody I'd run into, all my friends, would be like, oh my gosh, I went on this date with this guy who uses this thing called a coach. And they'd say, you should do that, Jeffrey. I'm like, yeah. Move on to the next person. I went on this date with this guy who uses this thing called a coach. You should do that, Jeffrey. And finally, after maybe half a dozen of these, I was like, maybe I should do that. So I went and I got trained in my modality. I got trained in coaching, took the skills I had from corporate training into this world and hung my shingle. The problem is nobody came. I was marketing to just about everybody around anything. I did what I now call the 3 P's of marketing. If you had a pulse, a problem, and a pocketbook, you are a prospect. And I hated it because everywhere I went, it felt like I was marketing. It felt like, oh, I'm at a birthday party. Maybe there's a lead here. Oh, I'm here. Maybe there's a lead here. And really what I wanted to do was my soul's work. And it felt like the two worlds didn't mix. And that's really what I'm on a mission to help put back together, spirit and business. I did at that point what I think a lot of people do, which is go out and hire marketing professionals and say, hey, I need to find out who my people are, right? What my niche is. And over again, they'd say basically the same thing. Well, what have you done? And, what do you have training in? I say, well, I have a degree in music. I was a corporate trainer at Microsoft. And they say, great, so you can work with musicians or people in high tech? And I'd be like, no, the musicians don't have a lot of money for the most part. And I left technology for a reason. That's not it. And so it felt like I was stuck between 2 things. Either I just bite the bullet and choose a market arbitrarily and start marketing to those people and hope that something works, or I go, none of that feels right. I'm not going to do it. But that left me going back to just talking about whatever and talking about my soul and my passions. And people would generally say, Jeffrey, that's great. You're doing what you love. But it didn't turn into a business. So I don't know if you've found yourself in that place or resonate with that at all. But I find for the most part, for the people that we work with at the Courageous Messenger, that's their experience. That either I do soul speak, I talk about what I love, I talk about the modality I use, I talk about my service, and people don't really respond except to say, that's great that you do that. Or I talk in a way that seems to drain all the soul out of my work, so that I can market something that people buy, but my heart's not in it, my soul's not in it, and I don't know what to do about it. that's where I was. And early on in my career, I was fortunate to have a mentor, Tim Kelly, who taught life purpose work. And I taught purpose work with him around the world. In that body of work, I started to see how our life's biggest challenges are the training program for our life's greatest contribution. How our life's biggest challenges are the training program for our life's biggest contribution. Basically, the tough stuff was a training program for our gifts. I worked with Tim for many years, and then I built a company with a woman named Suzanne Falter, who was one of the big wigs in the world of building your online presence and your online platform at the time. And she'd say, you know, oh, I worked with so-and-so, and we'd find a brand for them and really find their offer. And sometimes our clients would kind of freak out because they'd be like, oh crap, I could have a lot of success there. And they weren't sure they were ready for it. So I started coaching them around their fears of success. Now, here's what I found, and this is how it relates to marketing your mission. Over and over and over again, person after person, when Suzanne would say, oh, here's their market, here's their brand, here's the market's craving, I'd say, I could have told you that. Given who they are, what their fears are, what their challenges are, what they've gone through, of course that's the market, and of course that's the market's craving. And I started to see how our life's biggest challenges aren't just the training program for our life's greatest contribution, but they actually train us to know and be able to serve a unique group of people unlike anybody else in the world. And over time, I started to think, well, gosh, could we start with people's challenges, start with their core wounds, start with their biggest struggles, and decode who their market is and what their work is that that market is hungry for. And it turns out you can. And that's what we've been doing for many, many, many years ever since. So I want to share with you just a little bit about how we look at the world of marketing, especially when you're doing your life's work, your life's mission, your life's purpose, and how it differs from, I think, what we normally think of as traditional marketing. And I want to start with this premise. If you have a calling, if your work is your life's work, to receive a calling is a receptive act. There are people in this world that sent out the call, said, hey, I need this thing. And because of your life's journey, your life struggles, what you've gone through, how you've gotten through, you are the person that can help them. And that's why you're the person who heard the call, right? To receive a calling is a receptive act, which means by definition that there are people out there waiting for you. Hey, I need help with this. They sent out a call. You got it. It landed in your heart, which tells me that absolutely, 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 you have the capacity to answer it. Marketing, in my opinion, is the act of taking that call, right? And saying back to the people who sent the call, hey, I got it. And here's how I can help. That, to me, is essentially what marketing is. So let's start here. I want to talk a little bit about your life's journey and help you see this connection between your life's biggest struggles and how to market your life's work. And in particular, help you see who needs it and why. And just a little preface before we dive into that process. I want to share with you that to me, there are a few things we need to have in place for people to really understand why they should buy from you, what gifts you have to share with them, and why you're the one. So first, we need to understand what I call your life's PhD. We're going to go through 4 things today. Your life's PhD, a hungry audience, high value packaging, and a compelling message. When you understand your unique genius with your life PhD, your unique genius, a hungry audience, packaged in a way that delivers exponentially greater value to your audience, and a compelling message that speaks to them, has them understand that you're the one, and they respond, that's when there can be this amazing relationship between you and the people that are waiting for you. So I want to start here, which is your life's PhD and your unique genius. You, like all of us, have a background that no one else in this world shares. Nobody else has gone through what you've gone through, experienced the things you've experienced, has the trainings you have the background you have. No one has the exact setup that you have. When it comes to your life's PhD, in particular, there are things that you've struggled with over and over and over and over again. Maybe it's every time I speak up, I get shot down. Maybe you've struggled with pushing and pushing and pushing to prove you're a success, but you keep wearing something out in your life, whether it's a relationship or your health or something else. Maybe you've always been an outsider who never felt like you belonged. Whatever it is, there is a pattern to your life's biggest struggles. And I don't know about you, but when I started in the world of spirituality and personal development, my aim was to try to scrub that stuff out. I used to kind of feel like, oh, if I just work on myself enough, I'll be like fixed. I'll be ready for the world. I'll be able to share myself with people. And what I didn't know then was really what I was trying to do was not be vulnerable. I grew up as a gay kid in a very religious, conservative community and household in Michigan in the United States. And I'll never forget the moment I realized I was gay. I was on the beach with big sister Kim in Lake Michigan, in Holland, Michigan. Holland, Michigan's full of Dutch people. My last Van Dyke, Jeffrey Van Dyke. We had license plate holders that said, if he ain't Dutch, he ain't much. Everybody was the same. And I'm on the beach with my big sister Kim. We're laying out, right? Bright sun, huge, big sandy beach. Her friend Darcy's with us. And I just love being there. I'm 13, she's 16. She's my big sister. I look up to her. And these three friends, her and Darcy's, come up to say hello. These three girls and their boyfriends. And as I'm laying out and I look up, I see these three beautiful young women, in 16 or so, in their bikinis. And then my eye gets caught to the guys in their board shorts and their abs. And I look back at the girls, and they're lovely. But then my attention goes back over to the guys. And in that moment, I realize I'm looking at the wrong thing. And where I'm from, that meant you were damned. You're going to burn in hell for all of eternity. Not even kicked out of the community by your community, but kicked out by God. And from that moment forward, I vowed to never tell another soul. It's my secret. Cannot risk sharing this. So I always felt like I was on the outside looking in. I always felt different. I always felt like a bit of an outcast or an outsider, like something was broken in me. And the first part of my personal development journey, I just wanted to fix the brokenness. It's kind of scrub it out, make myself better. But as I got into this work, what I started to see was the gift of my life's challenges. I started to see that most of my clients shared a pattern of feeling different, feeling like an outsider or an outcast, never fully fitting in. And what I know today is how that pattern shows up in people's businesses that causes them pain and has them need support. So the first thing I want you to do is to look at your life and say, okay, well, what are some of the biggest challenges I've gone through? They might be chronic, they might be acute. Chronic ones are things like, well, I grew up with an alcoholic father who beat us. Or an acute one might be the day my little brother got killed in a car accident. So it can be a momentary in time or an ongoing wounding or challenging experience from your life. The first thing I want to tell you is that you have great gifts born of these challenges. And I want you to think about it this way. And we'll talk a bit more about how it turns into marketing here in just a minute. If you were to go climb Mount Kilimanjaro and you wanted to hire a guide, wouldn't you want a Sherpa that grew up with Sherpa parents, whose parents were Sherpas, right? Whose parents and great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents were Sherpas? Wouldn't you want a guide that knows the ins and outs of that mountain range, right? Who knows that when the wind moves this way just a hair, oh, not safe, we got to stay at camp. Oh, now let's climb. Wouldn't you want somebody that knows the ins and outs of that landscape? Well, here's what I have to say to you. Rather than trying to scrub out your wounds or get rid of your parts of you don't like, maybe they were a training program. Maybe they didn't happen to you, but they happened for you. Maybe there's a gift. Maybe there's a certain group of people that share that patterning with you, that share those wounds, that you would know, you'd almost have X-ray vision for in a way that nobody else knows quite like you. And wouldn't it make sense that if somebody wanted to hire someone to support them in their life, their journey, their business, that they would hire someone who knows the ins and outs of that landscape? They want someone whose experiences, who's experienced trials and tribulations, the struggles you've experienced. They want someone who knows the pain you felt. They want someone who has had to come face to face with the challenges you've had and who knows what it takes to give yourself permission, the courage it takes to get through it and move on. That's who they want. They want a Sherpa. They want someone they can trust, not somebody who's like, oh, I felt that once, I can help, right? Oh, I've been up Mount Kilimanjaro once, I can be your Sherpa, right? Not somebody who said, oh, well, I've never experienced that, but I've experienced this other thing, I can help you. Not somebody that says, well, I've never been up Mount Kilimanjaro, but I'm a Sherpa in this other mountain range. I mean, one mountain range is another mountain range, they all are basically the same, right? I can take you. No, you don't want that. You want someone who knows the ins and outs of that particular landscape. And that, my friend, is you. You know a particular landscape unlike anybody else in this world. And the first thing we have to do when we start to look at how do we market a mission is understand what your unique genius is. What do you have a life PhD in, right? Life trained you to know a certain landscape unlike anybody else, that allows you to see things other people don't see, that allows you to understand the problems that other people are facing in a way that nobody else quite understands. That's the first bit. Now, nobody is walking around, so here's the benefit of that and here's the challenge of that alone. The benefit is you go, oh, this is the transformation my people need. This is the transformational journey they all need to go through. From one of them in my company and with my community is from being the outcast to being the way shower. I believe that the holy role of the outcast is to be the way shower. Think of it this way. If you spent your life on the outside looking in, you see pathways, you see ways forward, you see things that people who are in it don't see. And therefore, in times of turmoil like we're in right now, especially, you see pathways forward that nobody else sees in the ways you do. That is the gift of the outcast. So that's the transformational journey, outcast to way shower. So the very first thing I would invite you to do is to look at your life's biggest struggles and ask yourself, well, what happened? How did I feel? And more than that, over time, what pattern emerged in my world and in my life? What pattern emerged? Now, for some of you, this may be more obvious than others. And here's why. We do two things in response to our life's biggest struggles. We do two things in response to our wounds. At the kernel of a wounding experience is something that hurt and didn't make sense. If something hurt and didn't make sense, you had to make meaning of it. And how we typically make meaning of things is to say to ourselves, especially as young children, oh, this is happening to me because I'm fill in the blank. Because I'm stupid, because I'm worthless, because I'm a loser, because I don't fit in, because I'm unlovable. And then we do two things in response to that identity that we develop. We inflate and deflate. Inflation is where we go, no, I'm not that. Let me prove to myself and everybody else in the world that I'm not that, right? I had a gal in a training I ran whose wound pattern was around being stupid. And I listened to her for a bit and I go, oh, I think that's a stupid pattern. And she said, how can that be? And I said, well, what do you mean? She goes, well, what about all the education I have? You go, oh, how many degrees do you have? She goes, well, do you want to know about doctorate or postdoctorate? And I said, tell me the whole thing, right? She had 3 or 4 master's degrees and she was working on her 3rd PhD. And these were all from Ivy League institutions, MIT, Harvard, I think one was Stanford, technically not Ivy League, right? And I said, so what would drive someone? What would drive someone to work that darn hard at getting all those degrees? But a stupid wound, proving to yourself and everybody else, look, I'm not stupid, all right? When I see people, when I work with executives, when I work with folks that have accomplished a lot, oftentimes they're more in an inflated journey around their wounding. If the wound is, I'm a loser, right? I'm a failure. Let me prove to myself and everybody else, and my dad, who always told me I was a failure, that I'm not. Let me prove. How high can I climb in the corporate ladder to prove that I'm not a failure? Now, of course, there's a side effect to that. There's some benefits and some challenges. The benefits are that it's powerful fuel. You go and you go and you go and you go. And you learn a lot, and you build skills and you build capacity. You know, that's going to the gym, doing reps. But there's also some challenges with it. You can burn yourself out. You can have health challenges. You can screw up your marriage because you are so hell-bent on this pursuit. And of course, there's no there. The fantasy is someday there's some achievement externally that will allow me to prove that I truly am not a failure. And there's no there. That's the fantasy of the ego. The only way we can address that is actually turning towards it and doing our own inner work to make peace with ourselves. So that's the inflated journey. And when you know, oh, my pattern is failure, my client's pattern is going to mirror mine. That's what I have a life PhD in. Wouldn't I serve? Doesn't it make sense that I would serve for my biggest struggles, right? Instead of trying to scrub them out and get rid of them, I would actually say, no, I'm a Sherpa around that. Oh, my people all have a failure wound. That's the patterning for my audience. Oh, and if they have a failure wound, here's some of the things that might be going on for them. I'll talk about hungry audience in a little bit. So I said there's two things. There's inflation and deflation. Inflation is, let me prove that I'm not this thing. The other one is deflation. I'm gonna collapse into it. Oh my gosh, I'm such a failure. Oh my gosh, I never fit in. I'm so alone in this world. Oh my gosh, I'm so stupid. How could I be so stupid? And that's the collapse. That's the deflation. So those are two things we do in relationship to the wound. When you know that, then you know the consequences of the pattern. And that's the primary place where we market to people. So you think about it this way, nobody's walking around aware of this underlying pattern. Let's go, my camera went out of focus. Give me a minute. Nobody is consciously aware of this underlying pattern. Nobody is saying, oh my gosh, I need a coach to help me with my failure wound, right? I need an executive coach to help me with betrayal. No, nobody's walking around conscious of it or asking for it. And so we cannot market to it. Oftentimes, especially for folks on a spiritual path or transformational path, when you're looking to market your work, you're speaking to things that people aren't asking for. And so they don't see the relevance to them and they don't respond. And then you go, what's wrong with me? Nothing wrong with you. You're amazing. But the messaging might not speak to them. So how do we translate our understanding of your PhD, right? I said we need four things: your unique genius, a hungry audience, a high value offer, and compelling messaging to be a courageous messenger and bring your work to this world. So that's the unique genius. Oh, my life trained me in this. I get it. I have a life PhD here. It didn't happen to me, it happened for me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, now we got to translate that into who needs it. And that's the second piece, the hungry audience. As I said, nobody is walking around consciously asking for help around these underlying patterns. They are unconscious. Most of the time, we aren't aware of them, which is why we seem to not be able to get over our most intractable problems. There are two primary things I see that we can market to: everyday problems and intractable problems. Everyday problems are, I need to learn how to write a Facebook ad. All right, I'm gonna go take a Facebook ad course. Great, everyday problem. I don't know how to do this. I need a skill. I'm gonna go acquire the skill. And I can basically kind of learn from anybody who knows how to do that and do it well. So I'll just kind of pick who's ever cheapest or whoever's personality I happen to like. Right? What happens when you market to everyday problems is that you become a commodity. You do it, and a lot of other people market to the same thing. And most of the people don't know why they should hire you versus somebody else. So then, like I said, you have to compete usually on price and personality. And, you know, that might work for some of you if you have a freaking winning personality. But for those of you that are maybe more of an introvert or have a tougher time expressing yourself in certain ways, not going to work. So then you go, well, I guess I got to charge less or discount my prices. And then you have a failing business, and that also doesn't work. So here's what I want for you. I want for you, if there are 100 people lined up looking for what you have, for you to know which ones are yours and which people would be better off being served by somebody who does something similar to you. Which ones are yours, which ones are somebody else's. I actually don't believe in competition. I believe what we have called niche mates, people who share a niche with you. But like I said, nobody is you. Nobody knows the world the way you do. Nobody can serve the way that you can. So what we have to do is go from, okay, here's my life PhD. Here's what I'm sure of from a pattern level. This is what needs transformation. Now, if that's not transformed, what are the problems that my people are likely to be experiencing because they have this unresolved underlying pattern that they are have pain around, are aware of, and are willing to spend money to solve? Are aware of it, have pain around it, are willing to spend money to solve it. Without that, by the way, you don't have a business. So let me share a few examples, because we follow the pattern up to the problem, to the symptom, and that's where marketing occurs. So as I mentioned, in my world, the two main underlying patterns that I have a life PhD that I serve from are around belonging and around power. Now, I don't overtly market around those two things, but I market to the symptoms of having those two patterns unresolved. In the belonging pattern, most of the people who hire us at the Courageous Messenger hire us for help to find either who are my people, or most of them, it's help me fix my message. My message isn't working. It's not landing with people. They aren't responding. I need a sharper message. I need a more compelling message. When I look at their messaging, usually what I find is that the messaging is too frickin' nice. Because if you think about it, if you have a wound around belonging, you want to fit in. You want to be liked. You want to be loved. And when it comes to marketing, you write your copy and shoot your videos and do your Facebook Lives in a way that makes you very friendly. Well, that's great for friends, but it's not compelling. In fact, it's downright dismissible. It's kind of watered down. You aren't saying what you're really here to say. You aren't saying what you really know and see, and therefore people don't see why they should work with you or your relevance to them. In the world of coaching, go to almost any coach's website and you'll see almost the same words, right? I help you be who you really are, right? I help you get from where you are to where you want to be. It's downright dismissible. Dismissible because I've seen it all before. We are in one of the most saturated marketplaces we've ever been in the history of humankind. So if you don't stand out and speak directly to your people, you are irrelevant to them. And that's just the truth of it. Now, the benefit of this time, while that's true, while we are in a more saturated marketplace than ever before, we also have more technology skills to deliver a message than ever before, right? We have democratized broadcast media. Anybody can be on Zoom, can be on Facebook Live, can be on YouTube. We can broadcast anytime, anyone, to anywhere. So that's amazing. The question is, how do we use this democratized media? We follow it up to the surface level symptom. When your messaging is boring and friendly, people aren't going to respond. And then guess what you're going to say? I need help with my messaging. So I know that our company needs to market to a messaging problem, not a belonging problem. I also know that our best people, if we lined 100 people up who have messaging problems, the people we're going to know intimately are the people who have messaging problems because they're being too darn friendly, because they don't want to be ostracized. Now, that desire to not be ostracized is not conscious. I'm not going to market to it. But I do know the symptoms of it, and that's what I market to. Let me give you a couple other examples. We had a gal who had a stupid wound, a different person actually, and she worked with brick and mortar business owners. And I said, okay, if somebody shares this stupid wound with you, what problem might they be encountering? And she had this like eureka moment. And she was like, my best clients, all of them have an area of business that they're no good at. They're just not competent in that area. That's not their skill. But they don't want people to know that they're stupid, so they don't get any help. And what ends up happening is they get buried by it. This might be their books are a mess. This might be their staffing is a mess. This might be logistics is a mess, but some area of their business is a mess and they're buried by it. I said, okay, great. If that's the case, is that something they're looking for? Help me out of the mess? Probably not, because I don't want anybody to know about it. It's a secret. I don't want people to know I'm stupid. So I said, okay, then what's the problem that problem causes? And she said, oh, they're working like dogs. I said, okay, how much? She's like, on average, like 80 hours a week. So we created a program called the 80-Hour Workweek Cure. And she knew that she's great at the nutsy boltsy stuff, but she also has a degree in hypnotherapy and knows how to do depth work. And when she put them together, people had these massive breakthroughs in their businesses, record years, everything opened up, and it was amazing. Now, this is somebody who came to us after having a tough year. It was, this is a little while back after the whole 2008 financial crisis. She'd only made $20,000 in the first half of that year. And she told me sometime later, yeah, I ended that year having made $126,000. So she made $106,000 in the second half of the year, having only made 20 in the first half. That's because she followed the PhD, her unique genius, into a hungry audience, people that knew, I need help. I'm working like a dog. I don't know why. And something about you tells me that you know more about me than I know about me. So that's what we're looking for, is the manifestation of that pattern as something that people are aware of, have pain around, are willing to spend money to solve. Let me just share a couple more. I had a guy who had a betrayal pattern. Given up for adoption, wife left him for his business partner. It was just all over the place in his history. I said, okay, that's the landscape. That's what you have a PhD in. He was a executive coach, executive consultant in Silicon Valley. And he had a great reputation and he could do good work with referrals, but he had a really tough time with outbound marketing because he wasn't differentiated. And he's like, how the heck am I going to market to betrayal with executives? I said, you're not. Let's see how it shows up. If you have a betrayal wound, guess what? Probably not going to trust people. If you're a CEO, where is that lack of trust going to show up in a way that really costs you? And he goes, oh, if they don't trust their executive team. I said, okay. And do you know of anybody looking for help around, I don't trust my executive team? No, I don't. All right, we have to keep following the breadcrumbs up to the surface. If I don't trust my executive team, what's going to happen? He goes, well, you're going to be a bottleneck. Oh, and if I'm a bottleneck CEO in a startup in Silicon Valley, then what's the problem? Well, then you halt innovation. Oh, and if I'm a CEO who's halting or slowing down innovation in Silicon Valley at a startup, then what's the problem? And he's like, oh, then you're toast. So we repositioned him as an innovation consultant for small to mid-size startups in Silicon Valley. And he knows that when he's in conversations with the CEO about potentially working with each other, he's sniffing around. He's hunting for, do you have this underlying pattern that's causing the bottleneck, that's causing the innovation slowdown? He's asking them things like, so tell me, do you trust your executive team? Do you lean on them? How do you feel about them? And he's listening for, sniffing for, do you have this underlying pattern that I have a life PhD in? And if he does, he says, look, the reason you have the innovation problem is because you have a bottleneck problem. The reason you have a bottleneck problem is because you have a trust problem. And that's when the light bulbs start to go off and they go, holy crap, nobody else has painted that picture for me. You're my guy. And they hire him. So that's how we move from your life's training program, your life's PhD, into something that is marketable. And I hope you can hear that when people hire him, he does deep work. He works with them on the betrayal stuff. He works with them on trust issues so that it's not just a Band-Aid on the problem, but a lasting and meaningful shift. So that's the second piece. The last two are about a high value offer and a compelling message. So once we know what the problem is that they're aware of, have pain around, are willing to spend money to solve, well, now we need to package a solution to that problem that has a mixture of transactional work and transformational work. One of the things that I talk about is finding the 1 square inch you can drill a mile deep in the marketplace. The 1 square inch you can drill a mile deep in the marketplace. And we find it by finding the intersection of transformation and transaction. So the transaction is the thing that you do that a lot of other people do. Oh, I'm an innovation consultant. He's not the only one, right? That's the transaction. Now here's the benefit of knowing the transactional need. It's a thing that people are aware of, that they're already consciously looking for, that you can market to them with. Why they need it, however, is where the transformation lives. And that for him is helping his people really have a deeper trust in the world and in themselves and in others, particularly their executive team. There is nobody else in the world built quite like him who can do innovation consulting for people who need a deeper level of trust in order to unleash innovation. That's the 1 square inch he can drill a mile deep in the marketplace. That's the high value offer. So we structure an offer around that, and that's usually where you can charge exponentially more to your audience than anybody else, because there is nobody else. There is no competition in that 1 square inch you drill a mile deep. And then lastly, your compelling message. When we work with people, we work to both speak to who these people are, what their problem is at the surface level, and because we know the underlying pattern, what secrets they hold that we must speak to illuminate them and have them go, oh my gosh, you're the person I've been looking for. There's nobody that named how I feel. There's nobody that's named what's underneath the surface for me in that way. Wow, I need to connect with you. Now, if you have your genius on tap, in service to a hungry audience, with a high value offer and a compelling message, now you can market your mission. And that's really what this is about. This is about getting your work into the hands and hearts and lives and businesses and bodies and relationships of the people that need it. I'll wrap this up with one piece. My guidance continues to tell me that our role, our company, The Courageous Messenger, is to help emerging and established leaders tell humanity's new story. As you can see, our systems, our life as we know it is upside down. The systems are breaking. They've been broken, but we're now seeing it front and center. And if you've been on the outside, if you're an outsider, if you resonate with it, I'm different, I see the world differently, I suggest that your holy role in this planet is to be a way shower. We need your voice. We need your message. We also need people to hear you and understand you and to know why they should buy from you. Otherwise, you can't live your mission as your business and have your business be your mission. The two things must go hand in hand in a way that doesn't water down the strategic value of what you have to offer, nor waters down the transformational gifts you have to deliver. My hope is that this session has given you a peek into how to put the two together. And if we have the opportunity to support you further, this is exactly what we do in our world, is work with people like you to help market their mission. So with that, thank you so much. I see a few chats from some of you. I appreciate them. I'm glad this landed for you. And if I have a chance to serve you deeper, my name is Jeffrey Van Dyke with The Courageous Messenger, and I look forward to it. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye-bye.